If you all thought I was unbearable in that first video, oh ho ho, buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because I think it's about to get a little bit ugly. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back into another video, and today it's finally time to discuss Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Ooh, boy, oh boy. Now, just to set some context, set the table, if I will, for some of you, if this is your first video, first off, thank you so much for taking the time to click on the video. Subscribe if you've not already. But second off, I made a video on Rebel Moon Part 1 and my issues with Rebel Moon Part 1 and Zack Snyder and Netflix and what they were doing. I would recommend going and watching that video before this one because it's going to be a lot of the same, I think, but more in depth here. So go watch that video and then come back and watch this one. This is a bad movie. I want to just say that off the top. Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver is a bad movie. And it's not just me. I want to make that clear. I got my letterbox open right now on my computer monitor, and I'm seeing a bunch of reviews from critics and friends that I respect and admire and think do their jobs incredibly well. And I'm seeing 1 star, 1 star, 1 star, 1.5 star, 1.5 star, 2 star, 1.5 star, 1 star, half a star. Yeah, it's not just me. This movie is, I think, kind of universally, unless you're part of the Snyder cult, it's a bad movie. I gave it a 58 out of 100, which I believe on my rating scale, I'd have to go and double check, I believe is a half a star on Letterboxd. It's a bad movie. So let's first talk about the movie itself. And I will give you the goods and the bads. I did a 3-minute review on my second channel, which you can go watch if you'd like. But we're going to do the goods and the bads. And then I'm actually going to get into my issues with Snyder and Netflix and what this movie, these two movies collectively are trying to do and failing at doing. Let's talk about the movie first. I think the biggest issue I have with it is the writing, honestly. I think that the first movie is supposed to set up the characters, build the world, and lead to this epic conclusion in Part 2. At least that's what was promised. But in reality, what we got was an hour of more exposition, more filler, more character introduction. And then in the second half, hour number 2, we do get a very interesting battle, but it's like, okay, I'm already kind of checked out of this movie because we spent time sitting around a campfire giving our origin stories, which we should have done in the first movie, and doing farming montages. The writing lacks logic. It does. And I think a lot of my colleagues and critics that I follow would agree. I watched Dan Murrell's review this morning. If you have not watched that, I would highly recommend it. He articulates kind of the same issues I have very well. And he said it, and I'm kind of taking this from him as well. The logic, there's no logic here. We can talk about the grain and all of that. That's a big part of the movie, but then it really doesn't play out at all. We can talk about the battles and the fights and how certain people show up when they do and why didn't certain people show up sooner. And I think Dan actually illustrates that much better than I probably could, so I'd recommend going and watching his video. It just logically, the writing is not logically sound at all. It's not. It is a long movie. The pacing's bad. The first hour, like I said, is doing things that should have been done in the first movie. This is not leading to an epic conclusion. This movie is not an epic conclusion. It is... We'll get into it later. I'm not going to get into it now. Performances. They just don't work for me. They didn't. They did not work for me. These characters are hollow. They are devoid of emotion. The movie is devoid of emotion. There is no emotion here. I was not emotionally attached. By the time we got to that second hour, and by the time things happened, and I'm going to try not to spoil it, I felt numb. I felt nothing. I felt no emotion towards these characters. There was no emotion when a certain character may die or something in the battle may happen. There's no tension. There's no emotion. I didn't feel it because these characters, they didn't earn that. The writing didn't earn that. And I think that's kind of my thesis of this movie is these two movies did not earn anything. And I'll get into that later on in the video when I get into the rant section of this video. Sofia Boutella is fine. She's fine. The other characters I couldn't latch on to. I just think the writing in general is just so poor and so lackluster. Like, credit where credit's due for Zack Snyder. You can tell that he's got a very rich mythology here and that there is a rich world that could be explored, but we just didn't explore it. So, I didn't love it. Direction's fine, but it is Snyder. There's way too many slow-mo shots. And I know everyone's like, but Jack, that's Zack Snyder's style. There's such thing as overdoing it. When we are putting in slow motion someone blowing grain out of their fingers like, no, we don't need that. We don't need that. It's too much. It's too much. It's overkill. So yeah, it's just, this movie's so lackluster, and I knew we would be here. I knew we would be here when I recorded that first video. I knew this is where we would end up. I will give credit where credit's due, though, on a few things, okay? First off, I really like the score. I do. I like the score. Some people may think it's tacky or whatever. It worked. I like the score. That's the most epic thing about this movie. This movie's supposed to be this epic space odyssey saga. The most epic part of these movies has been the score. It has. The score is good. I will give credit where credit's due. I will also give credit to the technical. The visual effects are impressive. They are. I will not sit here and try to act like they're not. They are visually impressive. They look good. Costume design, set design, the same. Well done. I got to give credit where credit's due for the very hardworking people that worked on those segments of this film. Visual effects are great. Set design, costume design, all good. The score, fantastic. There are things to like about this movie, but the main things, the performances, the writing, the direction are just not good. They're not good. Okay. So I gave the movie a 58 out of 100. That's kind of my review of the movie. Let's get into my core issue. I'm about to spoil Rebel Moon Part 2 as well. So if you've not watched this movie, click off now. We're getting into spoiler territory, and I'm about to tell you why I'm so fed up with this movie. At the end of the day, these stories meant nothing. They didn't. I equate Rebel Moon Part 1 and Part 2 as a pitch deck. That's what these movies are. They are a pitch deck for what Snyder actually wants to create. He wants to create this giant space odyssey story of these saviors saving the universe, Star Wars-esque type stuff. You can tell where he got a lot of his inspiration from. Literally, the end of the movie is just a straight-up lightsaber battle. Come on. These movies were a waste of time. They were. We did not accomplish anything. The only thing that may have happened was a little bit of story and character development for Korra, the main character played by Sofia Boutella. That's pretty much it. Nothing here was accomplished. These two films were bite-sized versions of the actual films. Snyder's already confirmed that there is a longer R-rated cut of this movie ready to go. And I said the same thing about Part 1. There is like some extended cut that is out there for Part 1. If they're already out there, just release them instead of this crap. But no. You want people, Netflix wants people to keep paying for their subscriptions, to keep coming back, to watch them again and again and again, to keep making money. So no, we will release the crappy, shorter PG-13 releases first, to then radicalize is a bad word, to then spur up the Snyder Nation to release the Snyder cuts of the first two, even though Snyder had full creative control over these first two. Netflix and Snyder have, as far as I know, a very cohesive relationship. This is not Warner Brothers. And it will work. The Snyder fans will back their guy without fail. And people will flock to watch the extended cuts. And then as the film ends, it is a spoiler. Oh, and again, spoiler warning. The princess is not actually dead, and you gotta go find her, and you gotta go get rid of this evil empire in the universe. Really? Really? You did not earn that cliffhanger here. You didn't earn it. And that's the main thesis of this video and of these two videos ranting about these movies. They didn't earn anything because the original products are not good. If these movies were good, if they had emotion, if the performances were good, if it made logical sense, then you would have earned a third, a fourth, a fifth version of Rebel Moon. Like, you would be able to extend this universe because you've got a good product. Marvel did not grow with crappy movies. You had Iron Man and Thor and Captain America, the First Avenger, and you had the Avengers. Like, they were good movies that had good character development with intriguing villains and beautiful visual effects. That's how those movies got made. And that's why that universe grew to what it was when we got to Endgame. You cannot make the assumption that because you are a director that has a name, that is a figure in filmmaking, that has this rabid fan base, you cannot assume that you have the right to like 5 to 10 movies already in a universe that hasn't even been built yet. I'm sure Snyder knows what he wants to do with the 10th version of this movie in his universe. But he has not earned the right to get there. Because these movies are not good. Why would we continue to come back and watch these movies that are half-baked and lack the proper emotion necessary? Why would we do that? You have not earned the right. You haven't, in my opinion. Sorry for that. I kind of went off there for a second, but this is frustrating. Because, again, I talked about this in my first video. Netflix is exploiting the viewer and exploiting Snyder cut and Snyder fandom because they saw the success of release the Snyder cut for Justice League. And they're like, let's do it again. Let's do it again. No, that's bullshit. It is. That's bullshit. For you to make more money. That's bullshit. Excuse me for cussing. I know a lot of people work very hard in these movies. And those people, I give them credit. It's very hard for a movie to get made. But I find it very scummy for a studio. And I don't know if Snyder is part of this. So I'm going to try to leave him out of it. Even though I would assume he knows what's happening here. But it's very scummy for Netflix, really. Like, it's the problem is Netflix. Like, we see what you're trying to do. You're not hiding your hand here, Netflix, at all. We know what you're trying to do. And I think it's a scumbag move. It is, in my opinion. I think it's a scumbag move. But at the end of the day, if the movie gets made, the movie gets made. Will I watch it? Of course, because I'm going to do a review on it. I just think if you've got the longer versions, the R-rated versions, just release those. Why make us sit through 4 hours of half-baked, not good movie to then finally release the other ones? I just don't think that's fair, and I think you're doing a disservice to the audiences. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. I don't know. I think it's a mistake. I think they're trying to rekindle the fire of the release the Snyder Cut fandom. And teasing that third movie when I don't think they have been given the right to make that third movie. They fell right into my hand. It's exactly what I predicted and thought they would do. Will the Rebel Moon franchise turn into a bigger cinematic universe? If I had to put money on it, I'd say probably. Because the ratings on these movies are going to be good enough for them to warrant that. But at what cost? Like, how did we get here? That's all I gotta say. I'm going to quit ranting. Y'all don't want to hear that. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, it's not always like this. Usually I make videos about movies that I really like. And you can go watch any of my other We Need to Talk About videos. They're all about movies that I enjoy. And I talk about why I like them so much. But, like, I did a video about the first Rebel Moon. And I knew I would want to talk about the second one. Because I don't like what Netflix is doing. So, they're not always like this, I promise. But if you enjoy, please consider subscribing. We put out long-form videos like this every month about the movies that I watch that I really enjoy. If you want to see more reviews in bite-sized form, 3-minute reviews of every new release I see, go check out my second channel. That'll be linked in the description. Follow me on social media. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you do on YouTube. I appreciate you all. I really do. I appreciate you all for watching and sticking in. Snyder fans, I want to make it very clear. I don't hate Zack Snyder. Again, I think Zack Snyder's The Justice League is a really good movie. I believe I rated it a 91 out of 100. And I think he's got really good work under his belt. I think my biggest issues with Netflix and them trying to rekindle that release the Snyder Cut kind of thing. It just seems very scummy to me. So Snyder fans, please be gentle. This is not I don't have beef with Zack Snyder. I have beef with Netflix and what they're trying to do. Although I can't imagine that Zack Snyder is not clued in on what's going on here. But that's a conversation for another day. So be gentle in the comments, Snyder fans. I don't have any beef with you. I don't have any beef with Zack Snyder. My beef is with Netflix, really, to the core. This is where I leave you. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. If you enjoyed Rebel Moon, let me know why in the comments. And we can have a good conversation. But I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Hope y'all have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you in the next video.